back, shop rats. Today here in the shop, we're back on the Pro Street 68 Dodge Dart GTS. Duddy over at Duddy's Adventures has asked a bunch of questions, and I thought today would be a great day to go over some things on this car and answer some of his questions. And well, we've got to do some maintenance and stuff because, you know, you have to really maintain an engine like this that has all the Wildcats. So let's watch the show intro. We'll see you in about 30 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is My Car's Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
I admit that of all the cars on the property, this one doesn't get the love and attention it always should. So it's time to do just some basic maintenance, and oil change, clean it up a little bit inside, and do some other things. And in the process of that, I thought I would just go ahead while we're working and talk about the 5 questions that Duddy had posed. Now, there's a whole bunch of questions over there in the community tab. Just recently I said, hey, list 5 questions you would like me to answer on the channel. Well, I was already thinking about doing some more on this car anyway, and Duddy's specific questions were about this. So I'm going to get to all those other questions in time, but since I was planning on this, plus this car is now it's got road insurance on it. It's been in storage for storage insurance for a while, but it's finally got the road coverage on it. So I want to make hay while the sun shines, because we've only got about another month or 2 of nice weather here in Michigan, and I haven't really driven the car much. So we'll get to that. But let's get this thing jacked up in the air, and we'll take one of his questions and we'll talk about that while we're changing the oil. Have I ever mentioned how much I want a hoist? No idea how I would fit everything in here if I had one, but boy, it sure would be awesome. There we go. Okay, we're going to let that drain for a while. Duddy asked 5 questions over there, and oh boy, I haven't looked at them, but I'll do the ones I remember, and then I'll go over and look at the ones that I don't remember. I think one of the first ones he asked was, have I ever considered running this car down the track? Well, the answer to that is, yeah, for 28 years I've considered that. Just never have made it happen. But it's always been on the list to do, and I definitely want to. I think, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it with this drivetrain. Transmission's got a lot of abuse in it, and I'm concerned that it's not going to take the abuse. So, but the biggest reason I haven't done it, and it's just an excuse I know, is I don't have the drive shaft loop on the front. I have it somewhere around here in a box, and that's a lame excuse, but it's a fact that I haven't done it. The second reason is the drive shaft that was actually slated for this car was the exact drive shaft that Joe needed for his Charger. And the one that's in here is just a little bit shorter than I would be comfortable with running down the track. So those 2 things together are the reason. I don't have quite, there's about maybe a half an inch less engagement than I really would prefer, which is silly because I'm out ripping it around on the road and I'm sure it's fine, but it's just, those are the 2 reasons. No loop, which I can't run it because of that, and also then the drive shaft. Now I'm hoping that the drive shaft that's in the golden mullet will be the right one for this, because what I'm going to do on that car, that drive shaft won't work anyway for that. And I do have some other drive shafts around. My oil pan's running all over the floor. It's over full, so I'll be right back. Well, at least we made a mess, so that's good. Wasn't paying attention. Obviously, you probably saw that happening. You know, when you see something, you really should say something. I just cleaned the shop, so, we'd like to keep it that way for at least 3 days. Duddy's second question was, have I considered doing a nitrous pull on this and filming that? Yes, I have. 2 reasons I haven't. It's been quite a few years since I've run the nitrous system on this car, and it needs a little bit of maintenance before we fire it off. Number 2 is just getting the tank filled. It's kind of a pain in the neck around here where I live to get a tank filled. My dream has always been to get a great big nitrous cylinder with a dip tube in it and fill my own tanks. But I do know a guy, I'm not sure if he watches the channel or not, who does have the nitrous pump to fill these, but I just haven't taken the time and the money to do that. So, but I do have that on the list. After the engine fire, there's a couple of the wires on the nitrous system that need to be replaced. I need to do that. And every once in a while on the nitrous system, when it hasn't been used for a while, there's little teeny, what do you want to call them? Seals? Not really. There's little flapper things that kind of, well, they're supposed to blow off when you activate the nitrous solenoid, and they stick. And so it's going to be an involved process to get this fired up again. It's on the list of things to do, and we will go through that here on the channel when I get to it. It might not be this year. It probably won't be this year. But I think that would be a fun series of episodes to do where we are, getting the nitrous system active again on this car. Duddy's third question, I believe, is what would be my dream engine to put in the GTS? Well, that's changed over the years. But I mean, what do I want to say? Of course, a Hemi would be awesome to have in a Dart, but supercharged Hemi, great. Supercharged Hemi with nitrous, awesome. But the car was originally built. So let me tell you the backstory. I don't know if I have any pictures of the car that I was building this to compete with. My buddy Jim had a 70 Chevelle 454 Pro Street supercharged with nitrous car that and the dream always was, and when I was building this, that was kind of the plan, was I would get this car built with my 440, which I had at that time, and my 671 blower, which I still have back there, and we were going to race and see which was better, the Dart or the Chevelle. Now let me tell you, that Chevelle was over 1,000 horsepower. That thing was weight added, and it ran 10 seconds in the quarter mile, spinning the tires like crazy, and he had the time slips on it. So I had a big row to hoe to keep up. But that was the plan for this car, was big block, blown, nitrous, manual automatic transmission, manual valve body automatic transmission, which is what's in this actually, except this is a 904. So that was the dream from the time I started building this car. However, life happened, and it took me longer to get this done, and he sold the Chevelle, and it was fun. We worked together and we talked about that stuff. But so that was the plan in the beginning. Right now, what I would like to see happen is basically leave this as it is, but I am seriously toying with building a Stroker 340 to put in this with the dual quads and the nitrous, bump it up to, I think this is at 200 or 200. I think this is at 200 right now, and I think this kit goes to 250. It's been a long time, so I would put the biggest nitrous jets in it and leave it at that. So we would get, I don't know, a good Stroker 340 would be what, 413 I think is the common kit for that, 4 something, 40, I don't want to say 402, but anyway, somewhere in that ballpark. Bump the compression up some, not a huge amount, but some, and do the math so I know, how much squeeze I can get while still using this particular nitrous setup, and just freshen all of this up and get, a bunch more horsepower out of this, where this on nitrous is, I'm conservatively guessing 450 horse with the 200 horse shot that's on there right now. So this 360 is probably 300, and 300 plus 200, as I talked about in my horsepower episode recently, it doesn't all add up. But this thing gets with the program, so, I know it's making some pretty good horsepower. But build something that would be more along the lines of 400 horse, maybe, between 400 and 500 horse on the engine itself, and then add 200 on top of that. That shouldn't be too unattainable, but to make that much horsepower out of a small block, you've obviously got to have some good parts, and that's going to take some serious cash. The other way I could go with it, as I do have a good forged 340 crank, so rather than going stroker, just build a good 340 with forged pistons with the parts that I have. I have a really good set of 340 rods. They would need to be checked. This has got a good set of heads on it. These are ported. So just mix and match what I have with a good new bottom end and freshen the heads up and go that way. I could do that relatively inexpensively. So that's kind of my dream right now. And no matter what I do, I probably need to go from the 904 that's in this. It's pretty built. I built it myself. But probably bump that up to a 727 with a lot stouter parts. This converter is a little bit tight for that kind of performance. I built this car to drive a lot, and so the converter is spec'd below cruising RPM, which is, I think this car cruises at about 3,000 at 60, 3,200, and I think this is like a 2,500 stall. I didn't want to be cutting oil a lot. But my usage has changed on this car, and I don't drive it any distances anymore, so I probably would put a 4,000 RPM stall. I'd have to do the math and see where we go from there. But I do have mechanical valve train in this as well, so while right now I've got the 292, 508, 108 lobe center, don't quote me exactly on those numbers, but it's the biggest factory, or Mopar, I should say, not factory, Mopar performance hydraulic cam that you can put in a small block. That's what's in this. So I could step it up even more and get into the mechanicals. Lots of math that I would have to do to determine on that. So drop it down there in the comments. What would you think would be an awesome way to go? One of the reasons I'm reluctant on the strokers is because the kits, most of them only come with a cast crank, and if I'm going to pop that nitrous on there, I really need to have a forged crank. And when you add a forged crank into those stroker kits, the price gets really up there. So I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Just a side note, using a Wix filter. I've been using Wix filters for, golly, 35 or 40 years probably. The guys at the Auto Parts O'Reilly's are always trying to push the XP Wix filters. They're better, they're better. Well, I like the old traditional one, the non-XP version, because the XP ones are designed for full synthetic oil, and this is for conventional oil. I don't run synthetic in anything that I own except the new cars in my truck. The 3 minis in my truck are all synthetic, but otherwise I'm using the old school high zinc content oil. So I prefer to use the oil filter that I've used forever. And on one of these cars with the headers, you have to use the short one. I did pick up one a while ago, and it was the long one by accident, so I'm stuck with it. But anyway, so just a note there. Give me your thoughts if you think I'm wrong on that with the Wix XPs. But this is what I've been using forever, and I've always liked them, and I like the fact of the high quality filtration in the Wix filters. It takes forever to put oil in this because I keep forgetting to drill drain holes in the baffles and the valve cover. So while we're sitting here pouring in our second quart of oil, we'll talk about Duddy's next question. How is the GTS to drive? Well, it's scary easy in some ways and a handful in others. So what do I mean by that? Well, for some reason, when I put these new tires on the front, it tends to wander around a bit more. I'm not exactly sure why that is. Maybe it's got a tire with a belt shift in it, and whatever. But I mean, it goes straight down the road. Don't get me wrong. But Pro Street cars they're a bit different to drive. Part of it's those great big wide back tires. They tend to throw you around a little bit on the road, depending on the ridges and how the road is worn and stuff. Like if you've got a road that's got spots in it from tires like this, and you've got these great big 18.5-inch wide Pro Street tires, I won't say you ever get real nervous about it, but it gets your attention. Let's put it that way. But they're just different. I don't know how else to explain it. It drives super easy in a lot of ways, but you have to pay attention. Of course, it's got stupid amount of horsepower and a stupid low gear, so that is a factor in things as well. It's a handful as far as, because it's a manual automatic, so you're shifting. It has manual brakes, which is interesting because I kind of did some calculating, and I'm using I believe I am, let me look. So I'm using a disc reservoir, but it's manual, it's not power brakes. And I'm using I am using the drum brake proportioning valve. Now, I'll tell you my rationale for that in just a second. Let me go fill this back up again. No, I'm not using Walmart SuperTech oil, just so you know. I buy the Shell Rotella T4 in a 2.5 gallon bucket, and it's cheaper, big time cheaper that way than buying any other oil. And I like the high zinc content in that, but I just pour it into a quarts and keep track and just pour it in by hand like this. So I didn't get real in depth with the calculating, but I got thinking about, disc brakes tend to do about 60% of the braking on the front, 70%, 30% on the rear, something like that. Drum brakes are a little bit different. They're not quite as aggressive on the front brakes. And with these great big tires, I actually wanted a little bit more braking on the back. I don't remember all of the calculations and thought that went into it all those years ago, almost 28 years ago when I built this, but that was my rationale at the time. And it worked good. It stops good. It's straight as an arrow on the brakes, no problem. It's not like four-wheel drum brakes, like Scoops is four-wheel drums. And every time you step on the brakes with that thing, especially for the first or second stop in the morning, you never know where you're going to end up. So this tends to straighten out after a while. We're pouring it all down the side of the block, so at least it's not going to rust. I gotta do something. Last time I did an oil change on this, I just took the valve cover off and dumped the oil in. I probably should have done that this time, but I knew we were going to be talking anyway, so we'll talk more about how this car handles when we take it out for a cruise here in just a couple minutes. But I need to get one more quart of oil in this after this one, and then we'll be good to go. So,
did I mention how slow this is?
Here's a question for you guys. This has mechanical rockers, and it doesn't have tall valve covers. Does anybody know of a relatively inexpensive chrome? I don't want aluminum because I don't want to sell, like 3 of my cars or 1 of my children to buy a set. But tall valve covers to fit a small block Mopar. I remember when I first got this running with this motor. This is the second motor that was in this car, and it knocked really bad. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" And found out that the adjustment bolts on the rocker arms were hitting on the baffles in the valve cover. So I've never really taken the time to sort it out. I cleaned everything out of the way and it's fine, but I've never taken the time to actually look for a nice set of taller chrome valve covers. I got tall ones on the 47 for the Chevrolet. Those are easy to find. I remember looking for these years ago and couldn't find them. So if you know of a set, drop it down there in the comments. done much with the interior on this, so I'll just show you. I gave it a quick cleanup today. It hasn't been cleaned in years. Take it on the other side so we're not getting quite as much sun glare. But, I believe these are Mustang 2 seats. And again, I've explained the tape on the back seat. I just never got around to getting the seats upholstered the way I wanted. Of course, you gotta have your old Happy Juice sticker on the dashboard. That's important. Chromatic or Pro Ratchet Shifter, B&M. Seat flipped up here. This is the cardboard out of the back window that blew out while we were driving. I don't have a package tray for it, so I guess I need to just break down and get one sometime. But she's not bad inside. Carpet is nothing special. Well, there are definitely other episodes on the channel, but I thought today was a good day to answer viewer questions about the GTS. Take you for another little ride along. Of course, we did a couple burnouts and didn't get any exterior car footage this time, but you know, why wouldn't it be fun to go for a ride in a pro street car any chance you get? So thanks for coming along. I appreciate it. We're over on the Face Thing. Instant Grandma loves us. /MyCarShop. Here on the U Thing. Like, subscribe, share the video on all your social media platforms. If there's a video that you really like, please feel free to share it. Every bit of channel growth helps us because it provides more revenue for us to be able to continue on with all 12 of the projects that we're working on here at My Cars Shop. All right, we'll catch you on the next one. Oh, rah!